interesting times. Fourth headlines. U.S. Deputy Attorney General discussed how many cabinet members would support removing U.S. President Donald Trump from office in 2017, the FBI's former acting director said in an interview airing Sunday. 7 MPs from Britain's opposition Labour Party on Monday announced they were breaking away and forming an independent group in protest at the party's support for Brexit and its failure to stamp out anti-Semitism. Indian troops suffered new losses Monday in a fierce battle with Kashmir militants that left at least 7 dead, just days after a suicide bomber killed 41 paramilitaries in the troubled territory. And people in Austria's Nazareth dress up in traditional costumes for a carnival to celebrate the end of the winter. Welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda. And now to the news. The U.S. Deputy Attorney General discussed how many cabinet members would support removing U.S. President Donald Trump from office in 2017, the FBI's former acting director said in an interview airing Sunday. Andrew McCabe said invoking the 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution was raised by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein after Trump fired FBI Director James Comey on May 9, 2017.
Talking about
a discussion of the 25th Amendment was simply Rod raised the issue and discussed it with me in the context of thinking about how many other cabinet officials might support such an effort.
Rosenstein was actually...
A clip of that part of the interview was run early Sunday on CBS's Face the Nation show, the first time McCabe's actual comments on the explosive subject have been aired. Rosenstein has dismissed reports that he discussed removing Trump from office and even pondered wearing a wire to secretly record his conversations with the president as a joke if indeed he made the comments. In the interview, McCabe was asked whether Rosenstein seemed intent on getting rid of the President of the United States one way or another.
Might support such an effort. I can't confirm that, but what I can say is the Deputy Attorney General was definitely very concerned about the President, about his capacity, and about his intent at that point in time.
How did he bring up the idea?
The president abruptly fired Comey amid tensions over the FBI's investigation into possible links between Trump's 2016 campaign and a covert Russian effort to sway the U.S. election in his favor. Comey has said that Trump had been pressuring him to publicly declare that he was not a subject of the investigation. The firing set off alarm bells at the FBI, and McCabe told CBS he scrambled to ensure that the Russia probe was on absolutely solid ground so it could not easily be shelved. He told CBS he did not remember how the 25th Amendment came up in the discussion with Rosenstein. The 25th Amendment sets out a process for the replacement of the president in the event of death, removal, resignation, or incapacitation.
Honestly, I don't remember. It was just another kind of topic that he jumped to in the midst of a wide-ranging conversation.
Seriously? Just another topic?
A top advisor to Donald Trump said Sunday that the president's emergency declaration could allow hundreds of miles of barriers to be built on the Mexican border before the 2020 election. Trump has made clear he plans to exploit the issue in his re-election campaign, even amid sharp criticism from Democrats, rights groups, border state landowners, and several prominent Republicans. The president on Friday invoked a national emergency to justify tapping military and other funds for barrier construction after Congress approved less than a fourth the $5.7 billion he had sought for border security. Miller, echoing Trump's arguments, said that an unsecured border allowed drugs and criminals to pour into the country. He dismissed government statistics showing illegal entries had fallen, but asked to cite an example of a past president invoking an emergency after being denied funds by Congress. Miller could not do so. He said if people don't like that, they can address it. Seven MPs from Britain's opposition Labour Party on Monday announced they were breaking away and forming an independent group in protest of the party's support for Brexit and its failure to stamp out anti-Semitism. Watch this.
We have all now resigned from the Labour Party. This has been a very difficult, painful, but necessary decision. We represent different parts of the country. We are of different backgrounds. We were born of different generations, but we all share the same values. From today, we will all sit in Parliament as a new independent group of MPs.
Venezuela on Sunday expelled 5 visiting European lawmakers, an act which opposition leader Juan Guaido branded irrational as his showdown with President Nicolás Maduro over the arrival of international aid intensifies. The members of the European Parliament were being tossed out with no explanation, said Spanish MEP Esteban González Pons, who led the group. Pons said they are being expelled from Venezuela. Their passports have been seized. They have not informed of the reason for the expulsion. The incident is the latest point of tension between the international community and Maduro, who is in the grip of a power struggle with Guaido, the head of the National Assembly, who proclaimed himself interim president last month.
El que impida la entrada de la ayuda humanitaria está condenado a pasar el resto de su vida huyendo la justicia internacional, porque eso es un crimen internacional.
Guaido has the backing of more than 50 countries, including 30 in Europe. Pons' compatriots, Jose Ignacio Salafranca and Gabriel Mato Adrover, as well as Esther de Lange of the Netherlands and Paulo Rangel of Portugal, were also expelled. All are members of the Conservative European People's Party, or PPE. Writing on Twitter, Guaido said the maps were being exported or deported by an isolated and increasingly irrational regime. Earlier Sunday, Guaido set a goal of enlisting 1 million volunteers within a week to confront a government blockade that has kept tons of humanitarian aid, most of it from the United States, from flowing into the country, where residents can't get enough food and say they are dying because of a shortage of medicines. Poland's prime minister on Monday canceled Warsaw's participation in a summit of Central European countries in Jerusalem, calling comments about the actions of Poles during the Holocaust by Israel's foreign minister racist. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said the words of the Israeli foreign minister are racist and unacceptable. It is clear that our foreign minister Jacek Shaputovich will not be traveling to the summit. The foreign ministry also summoned Israeli Ambassador Anna Azari over the remarks by Israel Katz or KATZ on Sunday. The PAP news agency reported the second time Warsaw has taken such action in a matter of days. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki had backed out of the summit on Sunday following uproar over reported comments by the Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu about Poles and Holocaust. Foreign Minister Jacek Shaputovich was due to replace Morawiecki, but the Prime Minister said on Monday that Warsaw's participation was now in question following the KATZ comments. KATZ told Israel's 124 television that there were many Poles who collaborated with the Nazis, and like Yitzhak Shamir, whose father was murdered, said Poles suckle anti-Semitism with their mother's milk. Australia on Monday said a sophisticated state actor had hacked the country's main political parties and parliament just weeks before a closely fought election. Prime Minister Scott Morrison told lawmakers that investigators looking into a hack of parliament computer systems revealed 2 weeks ago also became aware that the network of some political parties had been breached. He said their cyber experts believe that a sophisticated state actor is responsible for this malicious activity. Australian security agencies said they did not know who was behind the attack or their motives. It is not yet clear what, if any, material was stolen during the hacks, how long the perpetrators were undetected, and whether it could make some political figures vulnerable to blackmail. Earlier this month, Australia reported a security incident on the parliamentary computing network that forced users, including the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, to change passwords and take other security measures. Experts warned that attribution is time-consuming and difficult. He added, however, that there were only 1 or 2 actors capable of carrying out such an attack. Hansen said he would put China at the top of the list of possible suspects, but wouldn't rule out Russia's involvement. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang said such speculation about Beijing was irresponsible and an attempt to smear the country. When investigating network breaches, there should be sufficient evidence. Unreasonable guesses can't be made, Geng said at a regular press briefing in Beijing. Geng urged media to stop using so-called cyber leaks and hacking attacks to discredit China and stop compromising China's interests and China's bilateral relations with the countries concerned. Beijing and Canberra have sparred over access to natural resources, maritime claims, and the use of Chinese state-backed technology companies. Relations have recently been frayed over Canberra's decision to ban Huawei from the country's 5G network amid national security concerns and the expulsion of Wang Shan, a Chinese billionaire who doled out millions in Australian political donations. More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns.
Ako po si Boy Abunda. Naniniwala po akong mahalaga ang kultura at mga sining sa buhay ng isang bansa. Makiisa sa pagdiriwang ng National Arts Month tuwing Pebrero. Halina't makisining, ani ng sining, alam ng sining.
Tungkulin ng MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
Hi everyone! Word Hope will be having all new episodes very soon. We can't wait for all of you to join us again as we learn many things. We will have loads of fun learning new words and values as well. So, stay tuned to Net 25 Kids every Saturday and Sunday, 8:30 to 9 a.m. only on Net 25.
Indian troops suffered new losses Monday in a fierce battle with Kashmir militants that left at least 7 dead just days after a suicide bomber killed 41 paramilitaries in the troubled territory, officials said. Confrontation piled more pressure on the Indian government, which has blamed Pakistan for Thursday's suicide attack on a paramilitary convoy that sparked widespread calls for action against the country's neighbor and nuclear arch-rival. Shooting continued for hours after military and police sources reported that 4 soldiers, 2 militants and a civilian were killed in Pulwama district south of Srinagar and the main city of Indian-administered Kashmir. An army major was among the dead, according to the Indian police. Police said another soldier and a civilian were critically wounded. The encounter is still on. Colonel Rakesh Kalia, a military spokesman in Kashmir, told AFP. Hundreds of soldiers raided villages and fired warning shots at a expected or suspected militant hideout, unleashing the firefight in the village of Pinglan. Some of the militants were believed to have escaped, police said, and government forces cordoned off other villages as they gave chase. Government forces launched a massive hunt for militants after an explosive packed van rammed a convoy transporting 2,500 security forces in Thursday's assault. Saudi Arabia vowed to de-escalate rising tensions between Pakistan and India during a high-profile summit in Islamabad Monday as Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman prepares to travel from Islamabad to New Delhi. The kingdom's foreign minister spoke at a press conference in Islamabad as Pakistan recalled its envoy from Delhi for consultations, the latest improvement in a fresh diplomatic crisis between the nuclear-armed neighbors. Delhi has vowed to retaliate after a suicide blast which killed 41 Indian paramilitaries in Kashmir on Thursday, the deadliest attack in the disputed Himalayan region in decades. The attack has sparked widespread calls in India for action against Pakistan.
Working on. With regards to the disputes between India and Pakistan, our objective is to try to de-escalate tensions between the two countries, neighbouring countries, and to see if there is a path forward to resolving those differences peacefully. We have been working with Pakistan and Afghanistan as well as the United States and the United Arab Emirates, to try to facilitate an agreement between the Taliban and the Afghan government so we can move Afghanistan towards peace. We believe that if the situation in Afghanistan stabilizes, it will be to the benefit not only of Pakistan, but to the region as a whole, including Saudi Arabia. And that's something that we're working on. With regards
The pledge came as the Crown Prince, widely known as MBS, prepared to head for India later Monday at the conclusion of the two-day visit to Pakistan. Kashmir has been split between India and Pakistan since independence from Britain in 1947, with both the countries which have fought 3 wars claiming it in its entirety.
It's up to you. I mean, English would be okay. Yeah, I think English would be okay.
Islamic State group jihadists were defending the last pocket of their caliphate in Syria on Monday as EU foreign ministers meet to discuss the crisis after U.S. President Donald Trump called on European nations to take back their foreign fighters. Die-hard is jihadists are trapped in their last patch of territory of less than half a square kilometer in eastern Syria near the Iraqi border. They have prevented civilians from fleeing by blocking roads out of the village of Baguj. The U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces fighting them said on Sunday. On a rooftop on the edges of the village, an SDF fighter told AFP that the frequencies used by the jihadists to communicate had gone dead. Now their area of control is really squeezed and they don't have as many walkie-talkies. They're not talking to each other as much, he said. SDF spokesman Mustafa Bali said it had blocked roads out of its holdout, preventing up to 2,000 civilians from escaping. He said Daesh has sealed off all the streets using the Arabic acronym for ISIS. Civilians who have been able to escape reported that ISIS militants were using women and children as human shields, said Sean Ryan, a spokesman for the U.S.-led coalition. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned anti-Semitic abuse of a leading intellectual by yellow vest protesters and said it would not be tolerated. Police intervened to protect philosopher and writer Alain Finkielkraut after he was targeted by a group of protesters on the fringe of a demonstration in central Paris on Saturday, according to videos posted on social networks. The anti-Semitic insults he has been subjected to are the absolute negation of what we are and what makes us a great nation. We will not tolerate it, Macron tweeted. The son of Polish immigrants who became a French academician Alain Finkielkraut is not only a prominent man of letters, but the symbol of what the Republic allows everyone, the president added to in another tweet. Several protesters shouted, "Dirty Zionists, we are the people and France is ours," according to a video broadcast by Yahoo News. Finkielkraut has expressed his solidarity and sympathy with the yellow vest protesters from the outset, but in an interview published Saturday in Le Figaro, he criticized the leaders of the movement, saying that the arrogance has changed sides. Saturday's incident triggered a wave of condemnation and messages of support for the philosopher. Interior Minister Christophe Castaner said it was simply intolerable, while the leader of the Republicans' opposition party, Laurent Wauquiez, denounced the abject idiots. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed a raft of investment deals worth up to $20 billion for the cash-strapped South Asian country as Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launches his Asia tour, seeking to emerge from the Khashoggi affair. Watch this.
और मिनिस्टर ऑफ कॉमर्स सऊदी अरब के जो हैं उनके दरमियान टेक्निकल
Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are now taking this relationship to a level which we never had before. A relationship where
German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Saturday labeled as frightening, tough U.S. trade rhetoric, planning to declare European car imports a national security threat. Merkel pointed out that the biggest car plant of German luxury brand BMW was not in Bavaria but in South Carolina, from where it exports vehicles to China.
Und ich sage ganz offen, wenn es uns ernst ist mit der transatlantischen Partnerschaft, ist es zumindest nicht ganz einfach für mich als deutsche Bundeskanzlerin, jetzt zu lesen, dass offensichtlich, ich habe es noch nicht so schriftlich vor Augen gehabt, offensichtlich das amerikanische Handelsministerium sagt, europäische Autos sind eine Bedrohung der nationalen Sicherheit der Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika. Schauen Sie, wir sind stolz auf unsere Autos. Das dürfen wir ja auch.
The U.S. Commerce Department report has concluded that auto imports threaten national security, setting the stage for possible tariffs by the White House. Two people familiar with the matter said Thursday. The investigation ordered by President Donald Trump in May is positive with respect to the central question of whether the imports impair U.S. national security, said a European auto industry source. An official with another auto company said it's going to say that auto imports are a threat to national security. The report, which is expected to be delivered by the White House by a Sunday deadline, has been seen as a major risk for foreign automakers. Trump has threatened to slap 25% duties on European autos, especially targeting Germany, which he says has harmed the American car industry. After receiving the report, the U.S. president will have 90 days to decide whether to move ahead with tariffs. Trump in July reached a trade truce with European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, with the two pledging no new tariffs while the negotiations continued. Brussels has already drawn up a list of 20 billion euros, or that's $22.6 billion in U.S. exports for retaliatory tariffs should Washington press ahead. The Commission's Director General for Trade, Jean-Luc Demarty, told the European Parliament last month. The White House has used the national security argument, saying that undermining the American manufacturing base impairs the military readiness, among other claims, to impose steep tariffs on steel and aluminum parts, drawing instant retaliation from the EU, Canada, Mexico, and China. Trading partners have sometimes reacted with outrage at the suggestion their exports pose a threat to U.S. national security. U.S. and Chinese officials wrapped up days of trade talks in Beijing on Friday, with plans to resume negotiations in Washington this week as the world's top two economies try to smooth out their thorny trade dispute. U.S. President Donald Trump said the talks were going extremely well, while his advisors deep in the details warned there was still much work to do. Beijing and Washington have already imposed duties on more than $360 billion in two-way trade, which are weighing on their manufacturing sectors and have shaken global financial markets. Trump has said he may extend a March 1 deadline, after which tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods are set to more than double. Tokyo stocks closed at a fresh two-month high on Monday as investor sentiment picked up on hopes for progress in the U.S.-China trade talks. The benchmark Nikkei 225 index rose 1.82%, or that's 381.22 points, to 21,281.85, its highest finish since mid-December, while the broader Topix index was up 1.56%, or 24.67 points, at 1,601.96. An analyst at National Australia Bank, David DeGarvis, said risk sentiment kicked off on Friday with the U.S. President Donald Trump averting another government shutdown and making positive comments on trade talks with China. On Wall Street, the Dow rallied 1.7% Friday. Investors are now keeping their eyes on the talks that will resume in Washington this week. Senior economist at Mizuho Securities, Kenji Yoshikawa, warned there are some signs of easing in U.S.-China tensions, but this negotiation is essentially the beginning of serious bilateral friction. Market players are also watching Japan's trade balance in January, due on Wednesday, analysts said. The dollar fetched 110.55 yen against a 110.43 yen in New York on Friday, Automakers were among the winners, with Toyota gaining 0.76% to 6,655 yen, Honda up 1.03% at 3,003 yen, and Nissan rising 1.40% to 948.1 yen. Bridgestone was up 4.93% at 4,402 yen after it announced a major share buyback. Sharp jumped 9.87% to 1,325 yen after the company announced the release of 3 new models of its tiny home use robot. SoftBank Group added 0.43% to 10,375 yen on a report that the telecoms and investing group is closing in on an investment in German online travel guide and booking website Get Your Guide. We'll be back with more news right after this break.
Maganda ang araw kasama ang buong barkada ng Pambansang Almusal. Kami na ang bahala sa masarap niyong almusal, kung saan matututo tayong magluto ng easy, delicious, and affordable recipes kasama ang ating guest chefs.
Siyempre, I want it medyo healthy pa rin, na wala tayong masyadong fats or skin ng ating chicken.
Of course, meron din tayong family notes, where we share tips and ideas on how to make our family happier and stronger.
Mag-open up, di ba? Lalo na sa ating parents.
Tandaan, discipline should focus on teaching, not punishing.
Yes. Ihahain din namin sa inyo ang maiinit na balita at mahahalagang impormasyon.
Para po yun sa ikabubuti ng ating kapaligiran.
Ano yung journey natin towards the 100 years?
Kaya naman, tutok na sa nag-iisang values-oriented morning show.
Pambansang Almusal!
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga, dito lang sa Net 25.
Ang Pambansang Almusal, Pambansang Almusal.
Hello everybody, my name is Tina and this is downtown Tampa. We are today at Tampa's Riverwalk, a trail that links to so many downtown destinations such as Tampa's Museum of Art, Glazer's Children's Museum, and Rivergate Tower. But there's so much more to the Riverwalks, from playgrounds to restaurants. So while you're planning your vacation to Tampa Bay, make sure to watch Digital Nest on YouTube or Net25 live stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I'm Sheena Fernandez, your Florida Bureau correspondent, and I am 125.
Pep News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
In Istanbul, stray cats and dogs are not chased from the streets. Instead, authorities keep them in good shape, feeding them and giving them veterinary care. Take a look.
In Istanbul, it's raining cats and dogs. Turkey's cultural capital is home to 15 million human inhabitants and tens of thousands of four-legged strays. Far from being treated like pests, the animals are cared for by the authorities. This city-sponsored veterinary bus travels to different neighbourhoods, where residents bring homeless cats and dogs in need.
He needed help. We saw that his eye was shut. We work on the campus and we often contact the town hall when we see animals in need of treatment.
When these animals are unhealthy, some parasitic illnesses can be transmitted to humans. So keeping these animals healthy is actually keeping the people around them healthy, which makes our work all the more important. More than 400 municipal workers, including 80 vets, are tasked with picking up poorly strays or those not yet registered, like this orphaned 2-month-old puppy. The animal is treated with antiparasitics and vaccinations, then fitted with an electronic tag. If it needs more care, the vets will bring it to one of the city's 6 animal clinics.
We know all the dogs thanks to their tags. The electronic tag system that I'm showing you now, this is a device for reading them. Once we scan them, you can see the number here. And with the number, we can find all the information we need to know about this dog on our database.
And it's not only the sick who are looked after. Every day, more than a ton of food is distributed to cats and dogs living in the wastelands surrounding the city. It's a way of staying on the pack's good side, but for locals, there's more to it than that.
In Turkey, because of our beliefs, we must be compassionate to other living beings. Their situation weighs on our conscience, so we cannot simply abandon these animals.
Some 145,000 animals have been tagged and identified by the City Council and their team. Thanks to their monitoring system, not a single case of rabies has been reported in the city for 3 years.
Kevin Durant scored 31 points and picked up the MVP award as Team LeBron rallied from a 20-point deficit to outgun Team Giannis 178-164 in the 2019 NBA All-Star Game on Sunday. Durant, who also won the MVP award in 2012, got his team untracked in the second half in a game that at one stage threatened to turn into an overblown three-point shooting contest. Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the two captains along with LeBron James, led all scorers with 38 points as his hand-picked squad scored a record equaling 53 points in the first quarter and led 95-82 at halftime. Defense went out the window, especially in the first half, but when it was time to get competitive in the fourth quarter, the All-Stars buckled down in front of a sold-out crowd of 19,070 at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. Team LeBron wouldn't be denied coming back from a 20-point third-quarter deficit with the help of 20 points from Klay Thompson and 19 from Kawhi Leonard. Team LeBron also set a record with a total of 91 three-point attempts. The teams combined of 481 three-point attempts in the first half alone. Paul George and Chris Middleton each scored 20 points from Teams Giannis, which got 17 apiece from Stephen Curry and Russell Westbrook in the loss. Honorary All-Stars Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade played a combined 13 minutes and scored 9 and 7 points respectively. The pair were invited to the game by Commissioner Adam Silver to commemorate their brilliant NBA careers.
You know, it goes so quick in this game because, you obviously have the best players in the world playing, and the runs are like crazy, and they have a small lineup out there at the end. They were loaded with shooters. Nothing that happened today changed my mind, so if you're asking that. But no, I want to see how the rest of the season obviously goes. Hopefully I can feel even better than the last few weeks, and see how it goes.
And I'm going to continue to try to do my job to help these young guys continue to take the next step, in the journey of the NBA, and try to have a good time, and try to have a couple more cool performances that make the crowd be like, oh man, he can still go. I want to make sure I leave that impression, with everyone. So,
être avec tous ces les meilleurs joueurs de la NBA, être ici sur un terrain avec eux, c'était vraiment sympa. Tout le week-end, même en entier, c'était vraiment très sympa pour moi, c'était mon premier, j'étais vraiment excité d'être ici. Et ouais, c'était vraiment cool, une très belle expérience pour moi et j'espère que ce sera juste le premier il y en aura d'autres.
Tokyo 2020 Games will leave a more intangible legacy than the 1964 Games. Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike says with the event coming up in about 500 days, images and sound bites from Yuriko Koike at press conference.
The Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games are just a year and a half away. I think today 522 days to go. I intend for the 2020 Games to leave a more intangible legacy. I also intend for the 2020 Games to leave a cultural legacy and for the games themselves to be a celebration of culture. 東京都といたしまして、福島の再生エネルギーで、作られた、このエネルギーを水素に変えて、その水素を東京に持ってきて、その水素で選手村の一部を動かすということを進めております。例えば東京都といたしまして、福島の
People in Austria's Nazareth dress up in traditional costumes for a carnival to celebrate the end of the winter. Take a look.
Bilden da dann einen großen Kreis und warten dann, bis der Kampf Bär gegen Bärentreiber beginnt. Dieser Kampf Bär gegen Bärentreiber, der symbolisiert den Kampf des Frühlings gegen den Winter. Und letztendlich wird dann der Frühling siegen und das feiern die ganzen Masken, das schöne Zug feiern das dann.
Also ich bin ein Sackner.
Practitioners of Malakand, often described as yoga on a pole, gather for the first World Championships of the ancient sport in Mumbai. Take a look.
There's this achievement and you kind of build strength and flexibility. It's just amazing actually what the human body can do.
To be honest, it is like torture and I still do not understand why I do it, but I have to do it because as I tell you, I need to spend my energy.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us. And I'm Juan with 25.